Alright guys, so today we're going to finally wrap up a lot of the Monster products that we've been checking out by finishing with two different speakers. Now I say different because one is a smaller speaker, a lot more portable, where the other one is a pretty large speaker that's meant for something completely different. But we're going to start with the smaller one, which is the Monster S130. It's also called the Monster Superstar, which I'm not a huge fan of that name. It is a $49 speaker, but actually right now on Amazon, it's marked down to $35, and that is a pretty big price drop on a speaker like this, because this speaker actually has 30 watts total built in, and it's a 360-degree speaker. Now this is not the first speaker we've seen that does that, but a speaker that's this small and has 30 watts total is actually impressive. And another thing that you can do with this speaker is you can actually buy two of these and use it as a left and right speaker. And where this will benefit you is this speaker has Bluetooth 5.3, so it's really good at cutting down any kind of lag that you would have with video. So if you're going to use these as a left and right speaker for watching movies or TV shows and things like that, you don't have to really worry about lag. Now another thing is, if you are going to use these outdoors, they do only have an Ipx5 rating. Now I would have liked to have seen these come with an Ipx7. I think most outdoor speakers should just automatically come with that IP rating. That way, if you're by the pool and it gets knocked into the water, you don't have to worry it's going to damage your speaker. But, you know, as far as rain and splashes and things like that, it will be fine. But do not be confused by the fact that on the site it says it's waterproof. It's not. IPX5 just means that it's fine against normal, day-to-day stuff. But do not submerge this speaker into water. Now, as far as anything that actually comes in the box, it's pretty simple. It only comes with a USB-C cable, and this is what allows you to charge this speaker, and the battery life on this speaker is also impressive. It says you can get about 24 hours on a single charge. Now, that is going to depend on how loud you listen to the speaker. I think the 24-hour rating is based off listening to it at about 50%. So if you're going to listen to it halfway, know that you will have no issue just letting it go all day long. One thing I do want to point out is it actually has a string or a holder for the speaker. This is nice just to be able to carry it around. But on the back, you can see it has a little flap. Now this is what's covering your USB-C port. But another thing that it has is it also has a micro SD card slot. So if you don't want to bring your phone with you, you can load up your music on a micro SD card, which a lot of people aren't going to go through the effort to do, and then just plug it into the speaker and you have your music with you without actually having to have your phone. Now, as far as actually being able to control everything, everything is located right on the top, and it does give you control over everything. So you have your play, pause, skipping your tracks forward, going backwards, and your volume control. And then right up top, you can also see 3 lights, and this is what allows you to kind of gauge how much battery life is left on the speaker. So now let's just go ahead and jump into the sound. Like I said, 30 watts total, I think is very impressive in a speaker this size. When I looked to see what all speakers would be comparable, the closest one that I found really was the Soundcore Flare 2, but that one retails for $79 on its own, and it's only 20 watts. Now it is IPX7 rated, so you can get a little more protection outdoors, but like I said, the Monster has 30 watts, and I think it sounds incredible for indoor use. I still think it gets plenty of volume for outdoor use if the speaker is going to be near you, but this isn't going to be one of those that just fills a lot of space outside. But what I was really impressed with is listening to the speaker at lower volume, it still had really nice bass impact. I noticed with a lot of speakers, you actually have to just turn the volume all the way up to get that, but it's nice to see a speaker that you don't have to blast to still be able to feel a little bit of that rumble. So the bass on this speaker I felt like was very impressive because of its size, but it did not take away from the mids and the treble. Now, this is not an overly bright or overly harsh sounding treble, but I did feel like it pulled out details more than enough for pretty much any genre. I still will say though, for genres like metal and anything that there's just a lot going on, it tends to start pulling things back a little bit. Like you feel like the bass is calming down, and then the treble is not as bright as it is on more simpler genres. So do keep that in mind if metal is like your main genre that you listen to. Now moving over to the next speaker. Now again, this is completely different than the one that we just talked about. And this one is the Monster Adventurer Max. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the name, but this speaker comes in retailing at $179, but right now it's on sale for $169. So huge price gap between the speaker we just talked about and the Adventurer Max. But the Adventurer Max is definitely made to be used outdoors. It actually has 100 watts total output, and it is using dual subwoofers. So this is not holding back when it comes to the low end, but it is also not holding back when it comes to the volume. This speaker alone can definitely fill a large space outside. And another impressive thing is you can still get two of these and use it as stereo, just huge boom boxes outside. And this could be something that you could use as like a party speaker, something that's kind of like for entertainment outdoors. Volume is loud, bass is punchy. And it also has two tweeters to still allow everything to come through clear and not have that bass just drown it out altogether. Now this one only has Bluetooth 5.0 instead of 5.3, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend these for media use like movies and videos, because I did notice that there is a lag. It is slight, but it is noticeable. So compared to the S130, which I think does a much better job with media, I would go in that direction. But again, you're not going to get speakers as loud as the Adventurer Max. Now, one thing that I do want to say about the design, and this kind of goes along with the S130, there's nothing that makes either one of these speakers stand out. From a design standpoint, they're pretty bland. They're all black with Monster's just subtle logo. Some people like subtle designs. I'm usually one for that. But both of these speakers, the whole time I was testing these, just kind of reminded me of other speakers that I've seen before. So I do feel like companies need to do something to make their product stand out from the competition from a design standpoint. So that is something that I would recommend Monster maybe do in the future. Now, the Adventurer Max does come with a shoulder strap, which makes this easier to carry this speaker because it does have a little bit more weight. But there is a handle on the top of the speaker if you just want to carry it around that way. Now, also in the box, it comes with a 3.5mm auxiliary cable because it does have the input where you can plug that into anything that also has a 3.5mm jack. So that's nice that you don't have to rely on Bluetooth use. But it also comes with a USB-C to USB-C cable and a USB-A to USB-C because this speaker also doubles as a power bank. You can plug in other devices into the speaker and it will just charge whatever device that you have plugged into it. But speaking of charging, battery life is also listed at 24 hours, but this is listening at 50% volume. Again, if you're going to listen to this speaker halfway, you can maybe get 20 to 24 hours. But if you're just going to blast this speaker, those two subwoofers are going to drain a little bit more on the battery life. So really expect to get just under 20 hours, which again is going to get most people through a day. And most people, it'll get you through a weekend at the beach without actually having to worry about charging the speaker. Now, as far as the controls on this speaker, again, they are located on the top, and just like the S130, it gives you control over everything. And another feature I would have liked to have seen on both of these speakers is I would have liked to have seen some way to switch it into different EQ modes. Some people might not want all bass or all treble or whatever. Everybody just has a different preference when it comes to sound. So I like it when companies at least give you that option to switch from the devices, and both of these do not have the ability to do that. Now moving over to the sound of the Adventurer Max, again, this is a very bass-driven speaker. Those two woofers are doing a lot to be able to make you feel the impact of bass. But what they did right here was also adding those two tweeters so that everything still came through really clear. In fact, the Adventurer Max has some pretty bright treble. I think they really needed to do this because the Adventurer Max also has a lot more bass to it, and it could have been very easy to drown out the mids and the treble, which is not the case here. This is a very detailed speaker, especially for one this size, especially for one that's meant for outdoor use, because a lot of companies tend to just push the low end when it comes to these speakers. Luckily, Monster didn't just jump all in and just go with bass only. And this speaker does not suffer like the S130 does when it comes to metal, because the Adventurer Max really does shine in this genre, because the bass impact, you can feel the double bass of the drums, but you can still hear all the subtle crash of the cymbals. Vocalists sound really up front, and it is a very impressive speaker.
I'm in the game, I was on the bench. First I was renting, now I'm collecting rent. Run it up. First it with the Beamer, now I want the Benz.
Although it is pricey, it's still very good compared to some of the competitors that are out there. The speaker that I found closest to compare this one to is the Soundcore Motion Boom Plus. That speaker also retails for $179, although it is on sale for $149, but it only comes in at 80 watts, and it has an IP67 rating. So you get a little protection against dust on that speaker where you don't with the Adventurer Max. And the Motion Boom Plus only has 20 hours of battery life, where you are getting 24 with the Adventurer Max. So you are getting more power when it comes to the battery life. You're also getting more power when it comes to the watt output. And I feel like the Monster Adventurer Max is a much better buy, especially when the prices are this close. But guys, that wraps up my video on the Monster S130 or Superstar and the Monster Adventurer Max. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.